Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Active Advice. It is a bright and sunny day in beautiful LA. I was trying to think about the topic of this one. I was thinking about some friends of mine who I just met from the band Paerish, who I was just on tour with my band Teenage Wrist, my friend Loic, and in particular my friend Laureen. We had a lot of really wonderful conversations while I was traveling through Europe. The topic of this video being dimming my light, or dimming your light. You know, people, I feel like that's what they're the most scared of. They're the most scared of losing themselves, their light. What is your light? Is it your life force? Is it the things you dedicate yourself to? Is it your bandwidth, your sort of like awareness? I think that's a really hard question to define for yourself. So I don't really think we know how to protect ourselves from the darkest parts of ourselves and the world and other people until we actually know what it is that we have to offer ourselves. So first you need to know what your light is. I think that's something for me that I'm still understanding. I can definitely say in this format, speaking, I've never done this. So I made an introductory video, and I even said, I was like, I'm not really sure how to do this. I was scared to do this, but somehow in the midst of doing it and being scared to do it and taking the step, I feel very fired up doing it. I feel lit up. Like this is what I'm supposed to do. There's a light in it and it lights up my soul. So again, I think step one of all this and not dimming your light, like, you know, and this conversation came about because people, a lot of people that I know and a lot of people in this world are overworked. So what ends up happening is you sort of put your passions to the side because it's easier to make excuses for things. And I am an absolute professional at procrastinating and making excuses for things. Again, this just doing this took me 2.5 years to start because I was so scared to do it. And I told myself I wasn't worthy and all these different excuses, but I knew it would make me feel good. So my light was being dimmed by my own self-consciousness, you know, like my own insecurity. Me. I can't blame anybody else for that, right? I could try, and I definitely did and have and sometimes do. But again, you know, this is active advice. We're learning this together. I'm learning this as I'm saying. You have to sit down with yourself and think about all the things that you love about yourself, and not even what people tell you. When you are in a room with people, or when you're with yourself and you find yourself doing something and you find that admiration for yourself, the thing that excites you and just makes you feel like overwhelmingly gushy and like, you know, like overflowing with love of like, oh my God, I'm so like, look, I did the thing. Like almost like throwing a ball into a cup. Like you nailed it. You're like, wow, like, fuck, I did it. That's light. You know, the light is that feeling of synchronicity, alignment, but we spend too much time chasing it. I feel the light is something that within all of us, we'd rather crave that than the darkest parts of ourselves. Again, I am no stranger to that. It's more fun to play than to work. So write that down. It's more fun to play than to work. So like, why the fuck would you want to spend time working on yourself when it's just easy to dismiss your feelings, emotions, and consciousness and our experiences and our trauma? If we're not caught up with those things, then we can never expect to truly enjoy life, because then those things follow us. And again, I am no stranger to that. The unfortunate truth about not letting your light dim, not letting your life force be subject to other people and work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like that. I think that was part of our conversation. It's like, oh, you know, but I get so wrapped up in my job, and how do I balance these things? Like, how do I live passionately or whatever? I think you're just supposed to live passionately. Unfortunately, the only thing that endures is endurance. It's your willingness to sit through your problems. And I learned that like literally so recently. And I've been sitting with that a little bit. The things that hurt me are the things that not define me, but they define the lane that I want to stay in my life. But the things that hurt are the things that are sort of bumpers as I'm wanting to fall away from myself, fall out of balance. If I sit with myself and really let something hurt, then the thing that follows it is like supreme joy. 10 for 10 every single time. But again, that's hard because who wants to do that? The days are hard enough as it is. You know, I used to have this saying, and I still sometimes say it, but I'm like, reality's hard enough, so why make it harder? But oh boy, have I made it harder. I have definitely absorbed myself into my own drama, my own narrative. And there's still a lot of those things I'm shedding away. I'm not exempt. I'm still, again, active advice is the name of this whole thing, because I'm actively sharing my story to kind of give perspective of, hey, like if you feel like me, then you're not alone. This is life. I too don't always know how to be happy. I too feel like my light gets dimmed by circumstances or people or my thoughts. But again, I think if you spend some time with your darkness and the things you hate, then you kind of start to create a plan. It's like a plan of tolerance. Like, I won't do this anymore. I refuse to do this, and this, because this makes me feel horrible. This makes me feel like shit. These people make me feel like shit. And instead of making excuses to keep things in our life, we start to make excuses to maybe try to be the bad guy. And I think that's the point. Like, not to be a bad guy, but to not people please, which again, I am a master at that. And I've been learning how to let go of that. It's a really tough process. So I would say that not letting our light dim and following our passions has to come completely with how much time you're willing to spend suffering, sitting in darkness, hating the things around you, like really not feeling good. And it's not to say you do it on purpose, because I've done that too. I've sort of, I'm going to create this narrative where I'm brooding and I'm going to become this character. It's entertaining for a second until all of a sudden you're like, shit, I'm way too deep into this person and I've completely lost myself. Dimming your light yet again. I think lightness is always something that you look forward to. When something's light and easy, it's kind of like, oh, wow, what a relief. Because it comes with all the shit that came before it. Like, it's like if you're lifting a bunch of heavy boxes, then one of them is lighter. You always go, oh, wow, nice. Like, you can't not make a comment about it. But you don't even think about the boxes being light because you're dedicated to the process of lifting things that are heavy, right? Think about working out. Working out sucks. It does. Like, I mean, it's great when you get into it, but like lifting shit, it sucks. It's heavy. It's a pain. It hurts. Like, you're sore, but like no pain, no gain. So again, going back to your light, who you are. No pain, no gain. I have this written down here because I want to make a note of it. Buddha said, life is suffering. Initially, you hear life is suffering because when you come into something like Buddhism, you're like, oh, like, yeah, that makes sense. But you don't really think about life is suffering. Life is kind of meant to suck a little bit. Not because it's meant to, but I guess it's like, you're supposed to observe. Like, you're a kid and you're playful and you're light and carefree. And then you learn about life and adulthood. And then, you start to get into relationships and these things start to become complex and that drains us. But the truth is the same thing that you were is always there. The lightness and the joy, like that's still part of life. And then life just kind of happens. But again, if you're not willing to sit with your suffering and your darkness, then, you're never really going to be able to get back to yourself. You're never going to be able to find the light within you if you're not willing to sit with the shit, There's another really great quote I have written down here by Hermann Hesse. Love your suffering. Do not resist it. Do not flee from it. It is only your aversion to it that hurts, nothing else. Avoiding yourself, and again, I get this, will always lead you down the path of suffering. And it's so simple. Like it's so unbelievably simple. We all know that suffering is within the mind, but we need to train ourselves to have a higher pain tolerance. And through the process of training ourselves to look at our suffering as just a part of life and not something that is draining us, then all of a sudden it kind of just becomes a part of the process. The pain you feel, the stress, the anxiety, the depression. It doesn't mean that those things go away. But when something becomes a part of your life, like losing a limb, you have two options. You have the option of saying, well, I lost that appendage. So therefore, I cannot go any further. Or you can say, well, I got to figure out how to live life without this thing and to not let it affect me. And I mean, you should see some of these athletes in the world that do things with no legs, one arm, or none at all. Like, if that's not the most inspiring / motivational thing you've ever seen, like, you need to go dive into that. Suffering is in the mind. Love your suffering. Learn how to enjoy the pain, like kind of be a little bit of a masochist, like where you start to kind of go like, you know what, like, fuck it. Let me see what I can do with this. And it's not necessarily in spite of it as much as it is, you're just not going to let anything take you down. And it's that right there. If I'm not going to let something get a hold of me, and even if it takes me years, months, whatever, weeks, the second I decide that this thing will no longer take hold of me, then it will not. And guess what you just did? You just added light to darkness. If you say, no, you're turning on the light. You're switching on the part of you that is just ready to live. And I think that's it. Our light is our life. And we all just want to live. And we can all have the 9-to-5 job that sucks, but like still learn how to live. I think that's the best part. Time is not free. And I learned that from my good friend, Johnny Mogtig. Everything costs something. So when you add value to your life, what is it going to cost? Like to do this is uncomfortable. It's costing me my comfort. It's costing me an old version of myself. It's fucking weird. But the second that I decided recently that this was who I am, here I am. Here I am doing the thing that I want to do. And that's it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're over there, if you're watching this right now and you made it to this point of the video where you're in some job right now, and maybe you have, I want to be an artist. I want to be a this, I want to be a that, and whatever. I work in a factory with no windows in it when I'm not doing music. And it took me a long time to not complain about that. But now I'm realizing how important it is to me because I made a choice to let it be important. I made a choice to say, this doesn't define me. This is something that I'm doing that is beautiful. Like, this is like a blessing, because it's really easy to take things for granted, man. Like I'm so lucky for my life. I really am, but you can still take it for granted and then let things and people and situations kill your vibration. And I can't say don't do it, because that's not how it works. So suffering is the weightlifting of life. If you can learn how to transmute your pain and suffering into energy, then you have now gained a brand new gear to shift into for your strength. Like to that you can just be like, I don't feel good. Here, I'm going to use this. I'm going to go to this. I'm going to go sit down for an hour. I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to call a friend. Like I'm going to go make friends. I'm going to go sit by myself at a bar. I'm going to go sit by myself at a movie. Like, embrace it and make it part of your thing. And then the second that you start making your hurt part of a higher purpose versus a narrative, like, so a higher purpose is something that I don't really feel like you chase. I feel like it's something that you just learn how to be a part of every single day. You learn to like, look at the sunset, listen to the trees, and you do things every day and you go, wow, how beautiful is this life? That is aligning to your higher purpose and higher vibration. A narrative is something that you tell yourself, which I think is good in some respects. Like some respects, it's good to be like, I don't want to do this because of this. That's a important boundary to create, but it's easy to get lost in that. And again, I understand that, but don't let it kill you. Don't. Life's too short. And I'm learning that. Love the part of your life that you're in. And if you can convince yourself that the part of your life that you're in is made and designed to bring you to a place where you will be the happiest you've ever been. Like, what's so funny is I still feel like I haven't even reached that, but I kind of have. So like by the process of doing this, I've already like gotten closer. So love your suffering, enjoy it. If you feel like you're not in the right place right now, then it's time for you to shift your mindset and say that you're in exactly the place you need to be. And then remember that the power always belongs to you, and reclaiming your power is only as complicated as claiming it. And then you just need to keep saying it enough times to trick yourself into getting it. Brainwash yourself into enjoying the little things. And then you start to realize that the place in your life is just unbelievably temporary. I'm learning that now. Don't let your light dim. Every single part of you that you love is always there. Listen to it and do the little things that make you happy, and it'll help you do bigger things. I can guarantee that. Love your suffering and you'll find your light. Once you find your light, let it glow bright.